Uh, Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be with you here today. I would like to start by thanking every one of you for joining us today in this session where we are all gathering under the title of Patient Safety, where it is your role and your right. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Abir Zaitoun. I am a senior clinical and technical manager at the Lebanese National Pharmacovigilance Program, leading national efforts in medication and patient safety. I hold a PharmD degree, a master's in patient safety. I'm certified in medication safety, and I have over 15 years of academic and research contribution in pharmacovigilance and medication safety. It really gives me a great pleasure to be among you today to share this year's session for the Middle East region. And on behalf of the International Society of Pharmacovigilance, ISoP, I'm pleased to welcome every one of you to the 6th edition of the ISoP Patient Safety Day event that is held over 2 days, starting with September 18 today and moving on tomorrow. Before we start with our speakers, I would like to share with you some of the figures that will reflect the implication of patient harm on healthcare. When we talk about patient safety, sometimes it feels like an abstract concept, but the numbers show a serious problem where every year unsafe costs the world nearly $1 trillion that not only hospitals and medicines are included with these numbers, but also the loss of productivity, families are pushed to poverty, and national economics are losing around 0.7% of the growth every year. Let's bring this closer. So the unsafe care leads to over 3 million deaths per year. Especially, we're talking here about low to middle income countries like ours. So it's estimated that 4 in every 100 people die from unsafe medical care. Well, this is a huge number. It's not small, like if we can imagine. 4 of us here in this session will not be able to make it because sometimes they could have been exposed to a harm that could have been prevented. So even more striking, 4 out of 10 patients that are harmed when they seek care. But the good part about it is that studies have shown that 80% of this harm is avoidable, which means with awareness, systems, and accountability, we can save millions of lives. And that's why we are here today, trying to spread awareness about such an important activity. And if you are wondering which adverse events are we highlighting here, well, this includes all medication errors, unsafe surgeries, infections acquired in hospitals, and mistakes that can happen during diagnosis. These are everyday issues, and they affect every one of us directly or indirectly. So this will take us to what is patient safety and why are we here today. According to the WHO, patient safety is defined as the absence of preventable harm to patient, and this includes the reduction of risks of unnecessary harm associated with healthcare to an acceptable minimum. The World Patient Safety Day is observed on the 17th of September with the objective of raising global awareness for patient safety and promoting action by healthcare providers, governments, patients, and other stakeholders, all aiming at reducing avoidable harm in healthcare. This official Global Public Health Day was declared by the WHO where in 2019, during the 72 WHO Assembly, the WHO adopted resolution WHA 72.6 entitled Global Action on Patient Safety. This resolution formally established 17 September as World Patient Safety Day and it reflected the increasing recognition that patient safety is a global health priority due to the high rates of avoidable harms experienced by patients in healthcare settings worldwide. Accordingly, on a yearly basis, and throughout the past years, the WHO have chosen yearly slogan to highlight the theme of importance for that day, aiming at spreading awareness on different patient safety topics. Parallel to this, ISoP has organized Patient Safety Day events annually since at least 2020, where they organized global virtual events that involved many chapters and regions throughout the world in alignment with the WHO initiative. This year, the campaign theme is Safe Care for Every Newborn and Every Child. The slogan highlights the importance of ensuring safe, high-quality healthcare, beginning at birth and continuing through early childhood. That's why we are all here today, to share interactive discussions on how we can enhance the safe care in one of our vulnerable groups. ISoP reaffirms objectives of WHO Global Patient Safety Challenges and calls on stakeholders and healthcare professionals to prioritize and take early action in critical areas associated with significant harm in pediatric and neonatal patients due to unsafe medication practices. These areas include high-risk medications, look-alike and sound-alike drugs, dose conversions, care transitions, polypharmacy, adverse drug reactions, and other major disruption in the delivery of health care. Now, let us stop for a few minutes to listen to the message that was shared by ISoP President Dr. Angela Caro for this occasion.
Hi, my dear ISoP family. Welcome to the ISoP Patient Safety Day 2025. If you don't know me, I am Angela Caro. I am the president of the International Society of Pharmacovigilance. And with a big team, we prepared this day just for you. Thank you so much for your presence here. We are very proud about the talks and all the speakers that are invited this year in this celebration. Every year, ISoP celebrates the Patient Safety Day for the awareness of people who is working in Patient Safety Day and for everyone who wants to participate in create a better world in hospitals and industry and every place that is in charge of patient safety. This year, we are talking about the children, and we want to invite you to think how to contribute in a better medication safety for them. Please go to the social networks of ISoP and please read about all the information that we have for Patient Safety Day. And additionally, listen the EMC podcast that we create just for talking about this important day. Thank you so much for being here, and please enjoy the talks.
So we encourage you all to contribute to the broader dialogue by sharing your reflections and experience on this event through the different social media channels using the shown hashtags on our slide here. And now I move on to introduce to you our first speaker for today. It gives me a great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Omar Bayoun, who will be sharing with us a presentation entitled Pharmacovigilance for Safe Beginnings. Dr. Bayoun is a pharmacovigilance specialist with over 5 years of experience in drug safety across the Middle East, North Africa, and Europe. He currently serves as the Adverse Event Intake Workflow Lead for the EMEA Hub. He also brings a strong background as a qualified person for pharmacovigilance and regulatory intelligence, supporting country-level compliance across multiple regions. In addition, Dr. Bayoun has served as an assistant professor at the Beirut Arab University. He's a licensed pharmacist in Lebanon with a PharmD degree. And today he will be sharing with us his collected experience in this very interesting topic. Dr. Omar, I will leave the floor for you. You can now share your presentation, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Abir, for this lovely introduction. Okay. So, Dr. Abir, can you just please confirm you can see my screen?
Actually, no, not yet.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay. We need the present.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank
All
you. Thank you so
set.
much.
The floor is
Thank you
yours.
so much, Dr. Abir. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Omar, and I'm truly honored to be with you today. In my role as a PV specialist and through my work and experience in the Middle East region, I've seen how gaps in pediatric safety monitoring can translate into real consequences, both for the families and actually health providers. That's why I am always passionate actually about building stronger and more proactive systems. So today I'll share with you, if you want, a strategic framework for safeguarding pediatric through pharmacovigilance. We'll explore together key challenges unique to children, supported by real-world cases and Middle East data. And we will be discussing how PV can evolve from being reactive to proactive. So first, why pediatric safety matters? We must first acknowledge that children are not just small adults. Their bodies are rapidly growing and organs immature, and making them more sensitive to harm. So they are uniquely vulnerable patient, if we want to describe them specifically. They often cannot describe symptoms, so safety depends on caregivers and healthcare providers only. And because they're frequently excluded from clinical trials, we lack critical pediatric evidence. And all these differences set the stage for unique safety risks in these particular patient group. These differences that we just described that translate into 5 main struggles in pediatric safety, which are underreporting of adverse events, off-label use with limited formulations, frequent medication errors, and finally, serious communication barriers with fragmented monitoring across countries. And all of these struggles are the focus of our today framework. So our goal is to enable pharmacovigilance to serve as a strategic framework to tackle these issues that we just described. By strengthening PV, we can detect signals earlier, prevent harm, and build global systems that protect children from the early start. Now that we've set the stage on why pediatrics are different and the unique struggles in pediatric safety, let's move into the heart of today's presentation. So I will present to you the 5 key challenges in pediatric pharmacovigilance and the practical PV solution or solutions that can address them. I'll walk you through each challenge with a real-world example, followed by the solution we can implement as a PV system. So let's start by the first challenge. The first challenge is underreporting, which is one of the biggest issues in pediatrics PV. Reports are often incomplete, like missing weight, dosing, or timing. Also, caregivers' follow-up is complex, as they are not, of course, trained medically. And eventually, weak intake quality means weak signals, and hence risks are underestimated. To clearly showcase this challenge that I just mentioned, this Saudi Arabian study illustrates just how much underreporting affects pediatric safety. When pharmacovigilance relied on routine, passive reporting, only about 4.5% of hospitalized children had an ADR documented. But when this reporting shifted into an active monitoring, and active monitoring was introduced, the rate nearly doubled to 8.2%. Of course, here the children didn't suddenly get sicker. The difference here was in how systematically we captured the data. This shows us clearly that under passive systems, half of pediatric safety signals may be invisible, meaning harm is underestimated and actions are delayed. So, to address underreporting, 4 simple steps can make big difference. First, we must make pediatric fields mandatory in intake forms. Things like weight, age, dosing route should never be optional fields actually to fill. These should be mandatory fields. Second, we must train intake staff to probe for pediatric details, not just dose, but milligram versus milliliter, liquid versus tablets. Third, we must leverage AI and NLP tools. NLP, of course, means natural language processing tools to flag missing or illogical data before cases are closed. Like, for example, spotting if a 2 years old patient is listed with a 500 milligram tablet, for example. This should be a clear warning or signal. And finally, we must close the loop. We must give caregivers and healthcare providers enough feedback so they see that their reports are driving real challenge. Of course, that motivates them better, and in general, that motivates better reporting in the future. So the second challenge is data gaps. Children are often excluded from pivotal clinical trials, and this has serious consequences. According to WHO 2024 data, less than 5% of trials actually include pregnant women, and only 13% include children. This exclusion leave us with, if you want, major evidence gaps, like uncertainty in dosing, safety, and long-term outcomes. Instead of having reliable trial data, we solely rely on and we rely heavily on post-marketing evidence, which is by nature, of course, reactive and delayed. And in practice, this means pediatric patients are prescribed medicines that were never adequately tested for their age group, often leading to off-label use and a high risk of medication errors or adverse events. And here, I just want to highlight that the idea is very simple. If children aren't included in trials, they end up becoming the experiment in real life. And that is actually not acceptable for patient safety. So we all know the codeine story, which is a clear example of this danger. some children who were ultra-rapid CYP2D6 metabolizers converted codeine into morphine too quickly, leading to fatal respiratory depression, particularly after tonsil or adenoid surgery. And these risks only became visible through post-marketing clusters of deaths. Regulators, of course, then acted to contraindicate codeine use in children under 12 years old. But because trials hadn't included them, these signals were missed until it was too late. So, as a PV solutions to these data gaps issues, we highly need to adopt proactive pediatric path networks, which means multinational collaborations designed specifically for children. Second, integrating real-world data from EHRs, or what we call electronic health records, or form registries, for example, and caregivers app can fill evidence gaps as well. And finally, we should move toward living safety labels that update continuously instead of waiting years for revisions and accordingly updates. So the third challenge is medication errors in pediatrics. Of course, pediatric dosing is highly error-prone. Miscalculations with milligram per kilogram, unit confusion like milligram versus milliliter, frequent mistakes such as daily versus weekly, and many formulations are actually unsuitable for children. And of course, off-label prescribing is very common in this particular patient group. This study from Saudi Pediatric Tertiary Hospital highlights just how frequent medication errors are in children. Researchers documented 8.3 errors for every 100 prescriptions. The most common category was transcribing errors, making up over half of all errors. That means mistakes occurred as prescriptions were copied or transferred, which is, of course, a really preventable system failure. And what is really, really interesting about the study is that the drugs most often involved were very common pediatric medicines, which are paracetamol, salbutamol, and amoxicillin. These are routine, everyday drugs, so the risk is really widespread, not limited to, for example, a rare or complex therapies. And what this tell us is that pediatric medication errors are not just isolated incidents, if you want. They are systemic, frequent, and tied to very common treatments. So the methotrexate story is one of the most tragic examples of medication errors in pediatrics. The drug is intended to be given weekly, but errors occur when it is prescribed or dispensed daily, leading to fatal toxicities. What's striking is that these errors are not new. They've been documented since the 90s, and yet continue to occur as recently as 2020. Despite decades of safety alerts and warnings, the same mistakes keep repeating. And these errors are often detected through, of course, case reports in PV systems, but the reporting is typically incomplete and failing to capture the regimen clearly. That we capture of critical details means systemic error persists and opportunities to prevent harm are lost. And again, the key message here is this: passive PV and incomplete reporting are not enough. Without proactive systems that can capture and flag unsafe regimens, children will remain at risk from an entirely preventable errors, such that we highlighted in this situation. So, what's the solution? To overcome this challenge, pharmacovigilance must move beyond passive reporting by integrating with digital prescribing systems. PV can trigger real-time alerts. For example, flagging methotrexate daily as unsafe before the prescription is finalized. This way, PV become proactive, preventing errors before they actually reach and harm our little patients. The fourth challenge is communication gaps. Children cannot self-report, of course. Their safety solely depends on caregivers and HCP communications. Yet, communication breaks down due to technical jargon, literacy barriers, cultural differences, and misinformation. And when communication fails, of course, safety fails as well. So communication is really, really an important issue in this particular patient group. So the MMR vaccine and autism myth is also a good story about this challenge. It is one of the clearest examples of how poor communication can damage public health. In 1998, a small fraudulent study claimed that the MMR vaccine was linked to autism. Even after it was fully retracted and disproven, weak communication strategies allowed this myth to widely spread among people. Many caregivers actually trusted the misinformation they saw in the media more than the actual official PV message. And the consequences was a real decline in vaccination coverage and the resurgence of measles outbreak, including spikes in Europe and in the US between 2017 and 2019. This case really highlights how dangerous it is when pharmacovigilance systems don't communicate clearly, quickly, and effectively. And this isn't just history. The issue is still alive today, even here in the Middle East. A 2025 study in the UAE surveyed over 460 patients, and the findings were actually really striking. 20% of the patients has never heard, of the parents has never heard of the MMR vaccine. 15.6% lacked basic knowledge about measles, and 11.5% still believed the autism myth. In total, around 21% of parents were classified as vaccine hesitant. And bear in mind that this is a high-income country with strong healthcare systems, of course, which shows us how deep and persistent these communication gaps are. Despite overwhelming evidence proving MMR safety, misinformation continues to shape parental decisions, and that translates directly into, of course, missed vaccinations and a preventable risk for children. So, how do we close these communication gaps? There are three priorities. First, we need dual-layer safety communication. Technical messages are, of course, really important for the healthcare professionals, but they are not enough. Caregivers also need clear, simple materials, example, infographics, frequently asked questions, or visual instructions that explain risks and safe use in a way that can actually act on. Um, second, we must measure communication effectiveness. Pharmacovigilance shouldn't stop at saying we issued a warning. The real question is, did people understand it? Did behavior change? And did it improve safety outcomes? That's the standard we should hold ourselves to. And third and finally, we need proactive misinformation surveillance. PV systems can't afford actually to be passive. They should actively monitor the public awareness or the public narrative. In traditional media and in social media, for example, to detect the misinformation really early before it spreads and before it spreads widely and undermines safety. So our last challenge for today is fragmented global monitoring. And one of the biggest barriers in pediatric safety is that our data are actually fragmented, scattered across countries, health systems, and databases. Each country on its own may see only a handful of cases, which mean rare but serious events remain actually invisible. So without the global collaboration and pooled data, signals that affect children worldwide simply can't be detected on time. So the rotavirus vaccine is a good example of why fragmented monitoring is such a challenge. This vaccine prevents, of course, severe diarrhea in infants and save lives, but it carries a rare risk of intussusception, which is a dangerous intestinal obstruction. In clinical trials, even with around 60,000 infants enrolled, the sample size wasn't actually large enough to clearly quantify this risk. Post-marketing, individual countries reported occasional cases, but the numbers were too small to actually establish a pattern or to detect a PV signal. It was only when data from more than a million infants across multiple countries were pooled by the WHO that the signal actually became visible. This shows us that without global pooling, that risk would have remained hidden and the children would have continued to be exposed without awareness of the actual danger. So, how to address this fragmentation? Two solutions stand out. First, we need global pediatric signal pooling. No single country will ever have enough pediatric cases to identify rare safety patterns on its own. By pooling data internationally, we make the invisible visible. And second, we need harmonized pediatric reporting standards. Pooling only works if the data are consistent. Without harmonization, each country reports in a slightly different way. And when combined, the data can't be clearly compared. So together, pooling, harmonization give us the foundation for truly global pediatric pharmacovigilance. So to wrap up, pediatric pharmacovigilance must move from being reactive to being proactive. We've talked through 5 challenges and 5 corresponding solutions, each showing that the risks children face are real, but actually preventable. What's clear is that no single actor can do this alone. So regulators, healthcare providers, caregivers, and both low and high income countries must work together. if we want systems that truly protect our children. And the vision here is very simple but very powerful, which is patient safety from the start. Thank you all for your time and attention. It's been a privilege to share this framework with you on ISoP Patient Safety Day. I'd love to continue the conversation, and so you can connect with me through my contact details here, or simply scan the QR code for my LinkedIn profile. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so much.
Dr.
Thank you so
Amir.
much, Dr. Omar. Thank you so much. Indeed, it's a very interesting, fantastic topic to be shared and discussed during the World Patient Safety Day. The use of the real-world data that you have shared with us on codeine, methotrexate, MMR, rotavirus, they all make the challenges that you have raised more tangible and engaging. And the problems that you have shared were always supported with PV solutions, which help us to think of proactive action. But I would like to share here with everybody that all what we are sharing here, all the efforts that any PV program, department, system might come up with will not be effective without the essential role of the healthcare professionals, the patients, and the patient caregiver. I believe these are essential cornerstones within the life cycle of PV, and their engagement will link the actionable strategies. For our audience, I would like to invite you all to participate with us in an active discussion by sharing your questions to Dr. Omar in the chat box. So please, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat box and we will make sure to discuss as much as possible, depending on the time allowance, toward the end with our live question and answer sessions. And in case your question was not discussed during the session, we will make sure that it will be listed among the question and a list that will be published on the webpage of www.isoponline.org. And now let me move on to our next speaker. Moving on to our second presentation for today that will be provided by Dr. Samer Shukr Muhammad, who will be presenting a topic on neonate safe excipients and the need for a new classification. Dr. Muhammad is a pharmacovigilance expert and academic leader based in Baghdad. He currently heads the Department of Pharmacology and Toxicology at Al-Rafidain University College. With over 7 years of experience in pharmacovigilance and more than 6 years in regulatory affairs, Dr. Muhammad has served as a local qualified person for pharmacovigilance with several multinational companies. He is an active researcher where he contributed to studies on adverse drug reaction, and he's an active member of the International Society of Pharmacovigilance, ISoP, and he serves on the scientific advisory boards of IVPN. Welcome, Dr. Samer, and we will proceed with your presentation.
Hello everyone, my name is Samer Mohammed. I'm PhD in pharmacology, and it's my pleasure to participate in such an important day, which is Patient Safety Day. We'll talk about one of a critical topic, which is a neonate safe excipient, and why we urgently need the new classification to protect those newborn and children. And I think this presentation will match with the WHO slogan for this day, which is patient safety from the start. Why caution is required for pharmaceutical excipient? Many assume excipients are inert, but in reality, they are not. Their effects in neonate depend on age, dose, route of administration, and exposure time. Newborn have immature metabolism. Neonate have limited metabolic and renal clearance, so solvent or preservative loads accumulate at much lower exposure than in older children. And In addition to that, more permeable blood-brain barrier, which make them especially vulnerable. As a result, excipient can accumulate and lead to toxicity. This is why vigilance is so important here. Let us talk about tragedy of diethylene glycol. As you know, in 1937, the United States witnessed a tragic disaster. The elixir sulfanilamide formulation contained diethylene glycol, which killed over 100 people, and many of them are children. The cause was kidney failure and poisoning. At that time, there was no legal requirement to test medicines for safety before marketing. This tragedy sparked public outrage and directly contributed to the establishment of the FDA. It's a reminder that history should not repeat itself. Several excipients have already shown harmful effects in children, but I focused on three common cases that linked with historical tragedies. Benzyl alcohol, what caused the infamous gasping syndrome in preterm neonates. Propylene glycol, which toxic level lead to seizure, lactic acidosis, and hyperosmolarity that lead to warning from EMA that set conservative age band threshold and put it 1 milligram per kg per day for neonates. In addition to that, polysorbate 80 was linked with historical E-ferrol tragedy in preterm infants, where IV vitamin E caused multi-organ damage, and this led to FDA recall. The European Union and EMA agency already specify the excipient threshold and mandatory leaflet wording for substances like benzyl alcohol, ethanol, propylene glycol, and polysorbate. However, practice gaps remain. Despite this regulation, potentially harmful excipients are still present in neonate medicine, and this illustrated the gap between the compliant label and actual cumulative exposure. And this is where we must push for better solution. Currently, safety data are still scattered, and there is no pediatric first open standard that combine age, route, and dose exposure. Labels may technically comply with the regulation, but are often too hard to interpret by clinicians and caregivers, especially those under pressure. And most importantly, cumulative exposure across multiple products is still invisible, and baby might receive multiple medicine with the same risky excipient, and no one see the full picture. So, my proposal here is to put Neonate Safe Excipient Initiative, and I put acronym as NC. The aim of this initiative is to create a public, open, and defensible classification system for excipient, tailored for newborns and children. This would embed safety standard directly into product design, to labeling and pharmacovigilance. And the central feature for this initiative is the traffic light risk classification system. How my initiative traffic light will be worked? It's divided into 4 steps. Step 1, which is data collection, is done through gathering toxicological, pharmacological, and clinical safety data with a special attention to neonatal and pediatric sensitivity. Step 2 is done by the risk assessment. Here, we will examine the toxicological evidence, case reports, an example, benzyl alcohol which caused gasping syndrome, clinical studies. In addition to that, pharmacokinetics in neonate and children. Compare estimated daily intake against regulatory limits that are issued by regulatory agencies, and check cumulative exposure if the excipient come from multiple medicine. Consider severity of potential harm, like life-threatening versus reversible effect, or short-term versus long-term developmental impact. Finally, specify vulnerable subgroups like extremely preterm neonate, children with organ immaturity, or those requiring long duration in neonate intensive care units. In step 3, here we'll classify these excipients into three main groups. The first one is green, which means safe and acceptable excipient, in which there is no evidence of harmful effect of these excipients. Yellow color, which means caution, where there is limited data on this excipient or there is a risk at higher dose. While red color, which is not recommended, or there is a clear evidence of harm, like in benzyl alcohol that caused Casbeck syndrome. Finally, step 4, which is communication. Here the result will be published in easy-to-use database for regulator, formulators, and clinicians. The goal is to support transparent, practical, and accessible decision-making. This is the main core of my presentation, is to classify the excipient into three main subgroups according to their safety to the infant and neonates, like a green color, which is considered safe excipient and can be used for infant and neonate, while yellow or amber color should be used for those or for the excipient that should be used cautiously or with caution due to limited data or there is some known risk at higher doses. These should be used and should be monitored closely. While for red color excipient, this excipient is considered contraindicated and the product should be reformulated to put more safe excipient for those products. Partnership here in this initiative are crucial to push this initiative toward success. First is WHO, due to its global convening power, neutrality, and political legitimacy, and its role can align with this World Patient Safety Day and integrate into global patient safety frameworks. International Society of Pharmacovigilance, due to its scientific credibility and its expertise in pharmacovigilance, and its role could be convening expert panel, running risk assessment, and publishing the guidance. The European Pediatric Formulation Initiative, which is an international pediatric formulation consortium that already maintained the excipient database, which is called STEP, which is Safety and Toxicity of Excipient for Pediatrics, have maintained this excipient database and have formulation expertise. Finally, Neonatal Pharmacy Network and national authorities, due to their closest to the bedside or to the hospital, and can implement the compounding standard and provide real-world evidence. We can divide the initiative to be in central and local roles. The central one, I called it centralized watch list, including a global list like STEP and NC traffic light flags that could be developed through expert this work, and this including systemic review and PV signal. This central work contained advantages and disadvantages. The advantages one, it could be harmonized standard or contain a harmonized standard across regions, avoid duplication of effort, and could build credibility backed by WHO, ISoP, and STEP database. The disadvantage, it may not capture the local realities due to different formulation, availability, and usage pattern. While the local adaptation, which could be divided in, or adapted by different parties, like MAH, which could map the excipient and their products versus global list and could publish their formulation commitments, while for drug regulatory authority could embed this initiative into regulatory oversight through labeling and risk minimization, while each hospital or neonatal intensive care unit could integrate this initiative into formularies, compounding rule, and CPOE alerts, which is computerized physician order entry. This dual approach could ensure both harmonization and practicality. Now let us talk about how this initiative could be reflected on the outer package and insert leaflet of these medicine that contain these excipients. To improve communication, packaging and leaflet should be simplified, in which should contain plain language for and pediatric advisories and translate it into simple caregiver-friendly words, so parents and caregiver can quickly understand medicine safety without needing any medical training. Number two is the QR code on insert leaflet on outer packaging, in which is linking to short video about 1 minute video and dosing guidance explaining which ages are more at risk, safe duration limits, and what signs to watch for. And icon set, that contain age, route, duration, and to guidance for monitor adverse effect or adverse drug reaction for this excipient like apnea, poor feeding, and lethargy, as an example for benzyl alcohol and propylene glycol. To achieve impact of this initiative, we need reformulation priorities by focusing on top 20 pediatric products and reformulate these products to replace the harmful excipient with safer alternative, or reduce or eliminate excipient load. As an example, by replacing benzyl alcohol preservative with safer option. Also, we can achieve this impact through applying guardrails such as weight-banded dosing and minimizing the excipient load, like in ICU, neonatal intensive care units, and avoid risky multi-dose via. Also, ensure excipient justification in CMC dossier, or this quality part of CDT, which contain part of it include excipients in module 3 that include pharmaceutical development, excipient, and control of drug product. Ensure this excipient justification in this dossier with commitment to post-approval switch where necessary. Also, we can achieve the impact of this initiative through inclusion of this initiative or proposal through computerized vision order entry, which is an electronic system for doctors that used to enter the prescription and first checkpoint for excipient dispensing. And this system could show the traffic light color when dispensing these excipient to neonates and babies, especially when exceeding the dose, and could show the maximum daily dose and duration limits. Also, in neonate intensive care units, a stewardship board in which weekly excipient exposure should be audited, in which an ICU is considered another checkpoint for excipient monitoring, especially for those babies that receive multiple IV medicine or parenteral medicine and parenteral nutrition. Also, we can include this initiative in pharmacovigilance through inclusion of this initiative in or this excipient field in ICSR, and make exposure visible at order entry, monitor proactively for known toxicity, and code it in pharmacovigilance so signal become clear and obvious. In order to measure our progress in applying this initiative, some KPI should be included, like more than 80% of pediatric risky products or this risky excipient should be converted or controlled within 36 months. More than 40% improvement in caregiver comprehension of excipient warnings. Reduction by 50% of this risky excipient exposure, cumulative exposure in neonate intensive care unit in patient day within 12 months at pilot site. And we can publish quarterly update on this initiative and could be integrated with step entries. I propose 1 year roadmap to apply this initiative, and I divide it into quarterly at the last of first quarter. I prefer to finalize the watch list, the central watch list, and set traffic light criteria and align with CMC and key regulators. At the end of the second quarter, I should update the labels, patient informed leaflets, and enable computerized patient order entry checks. And we can start with 3 products reformulation. At the third quarter, we can start pilot study in 3 neonate intensive care units and begin with pharmacovigilance tagging and would publish first NC report. At the last of fourth quarter, we can scale to top pediatric products and submit step updates and publish regional guidance adaptation. I put an example practical summary tool that evaluate the excipient on different level, like exposure versus label limit, in which we could put an excipient, its function and route, and maximum label dose versus exposure or maximum exposure dose. Also, we can put a column or field that including the risk flag. We can put here the traffic light color that include red color to avoid this excipient for neonate, amber or yellow color that should be limit with limit color or sorry with limit decision, and green, which is not present here in our table, and indicate is acceptable and can be used for neonate. Also, I put the decision and mitigation, like decision avoiding for red risk flag to redesign the formulation and or limit to apply some control on this yellow color excipient, like short duration of use, monitoring of this excipient or this product, or give alternative when necessary. As a summary for our topic and our proposal, this is an invitation for all stakeholders to join the Neonatal Safe Excipient Initiative. As a founding signatories, each organization can nominate high-volume pediatric products, comment funding, and share data. Our pledge is to keep this tool open and accessible for regulators, clinicians, researchers, and caregivers. Together, we can protect the most vulnerable patients, which are neonates and infants. My last word is Neonate Safe Excipient Initiative will success only if WHO could anchor it, ISoP drive the science, STEP database ensure the data remain open, and neonate intensive care unit networks ensure the bedside adaptation. Together, with the collaborative of all these efforts, we can truly achieve safe care for every newborn and every child. At the last but not the least, this is my contact details for future work and if there is any inquiries. Also, I would like to thank ISOP Middle East chapter and especially Dr. Thamer for their invitation to present this topic, and Dr. Manal Yunus, which is the head of Pharmacovigilance Center here in Iraq, for reviewing and her inputs on this topic. Also, special thanks to Patricia for her cooperation and organizing this session. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Samer, for this informative presentation. Indeed, a very needed topic for advancing patient safety in our region. I totally believe that the proposed neonate safe excipient traffic light system that you have discussed is an excellent structured approach that can help both regulators and clinicians to quickly assess the excipient safety in neonate. And I would like to share with you all the experience in Lebanon. The Lebanese National Pharmacovigilance Program team have developed a national list for our marketed product in the Lebanese market, identifying excipients with known effect. This list can be used by healthcare professionals to identify those excipients whenever they are dispensing any medication. And I believe if this is accompanied with your proposed approach, they will definitely be of more success. So now let's move into a live discussion. And I again invite all of our participants and audience to share their question in the chat box. And I will start with questions that were addressed to Dr. Omar. So, Dr. Omar, you have a question saying that why do you think the harmonized pediatric adverse event reporting could not be achieved and sustained as a consistent challenge?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Abir, and thank you for this interesting question. So, the main reason actually, or the first reason and the most important reason is actually regulatory fragmentation. So, of course, we all know we have different regions, like we have FDA, we have EMA, we have WHO, with each different reporting requirements and age categorization. So we have, of course, due to this fragmented regulatory thing, we have variability in definitions. So, for example, terms like pediatrics, adolescents, or infants are not always described in the same way between these different regions. So we don't have harmonization regarding the definitions first. And this is really important when doing intake. Second, I think it's resource barriers because many low and middle income countries, especially in the Middle East, actually lack the infrastructure to sustain a standardized reporting systems, which is really important. So this is why as I highlighted in my presentation, going forward, stronger alignment between regulators could make harmonization more actually achievable.
Thank you, Dr. Omar. We will stay with you with another question, please. So, Dr. Omar, the solution you proposed that is related to the use of digitalization tools such as AI and NLP assisted intake check, in your opinion, to what extent or how feasible is the implementation of such an activity in low resources setting where PV infrastructure might be still in the developing phase?
Yes, again, thank you so much, Dr. Abir, for excellent question. So AI can absolutely benefit us and add value to AE intake. This is for sure. But the key is to actually start simple with what we currently have in hands. So we can use, for example, lightweight NLP tools, which also can be used, for example, offline, even can be used offline. It can help actually in AE cases for triage, duplicate detection, and language routing. So, of course, in these cases, there should be always a human in the loop to confirm the output of these basic tools, if you want. This hybrid solution can make the digitalization practice even when the infrastructure is lacking. So we can make this digitalization using these simple tools that are available with everyone and even offline, as I mentioned. But what I think the trick here is actually working on the making the AE intake form smart before using the smart tool. Because 80% or even more of the info comes from mandatory pediatric fields in the adverse event form, for example. So if we work on the form itself, it will enable us to use more simpler tools, if you want, in these cases, that does not cost too much to acquire or operate.
Thank you, Dr. Omar. I will move to Dr. Samer, giving you, Dr. Omar, a small break. Dr. Samer, again, thank you so much for your informative presentation. And starting with the first question that was addressed to you, how do you envision the integration of the proposed NSEI traffic light classification into existing regulatory frameworks? Would it be voluntary guidance at first or mandatory leading to labeling requirements?
Thank you, Dr. Abir, for your introduction, for your question. I think it's better to be gradually incrementing this initiative in regulatory framework through voluntary participation, especially in the first year when I put the first year roadmap, like publishing this initiative and put the definition and the threshold and encourage the voluntary inclusion of this initiative in patient for leaflet or SMBC. Then after that, we can formalize it and become mandatory, especially for high risky excipient or for a sensitive age or weight bands. Through implementation or increment this tool in product information, e-leaflets, and even in QR code, as I said in our presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Samer. Another question for you. Since cumulative exposure across multiple products is a major gap, what digital tool or prescribing system could realistically be used in order to be able to monitor this in real time in neonatal ICU?
As I said before in my presentation, there is I put the digital tool was called SPOE, which is computerized physician order entry, which is considered as a checklist for the excipient and excipient threshold. There is many digital tools that can save the data for the patient, like a prescribing or electronic health records that could store the neonates data and can assist us regarding the using of this initiative.
Thank you so much. And I believe maybe also integrating the double checking system that we usually do with other like high alert medications or the LASA in our prescribing practices within the hospital would also help before dispensing those medication to pediatrics. I will go back to Dr. Omar. Dr. Omar, we have two more questions for you. Regarding the global pediatric signal pooling, in your opinion, what steps would be required to overcome data sharing barriers across countries?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Abir. So I think the priority here is to agree and align on a very, if you want, lean, harmonized pediatric data set. So all countries actually can contribute. So the idea here is we don't actually need to force central databases to all countries and all regulators, which can be actually a burden for certain countries. But we can use methods where data stays, for example, local, but the analysis of these countries or regulators are properly shared in order to improve this pooling.
Definitely, I totally agree with you. And I think this will align also with the WHO Global Benchmarking Tool initiative that requests the exchange in information between the different countries in order to achieve one goal, which is safety for the patients and for the use of medication. Another question for you, Dr. Omar. In addressing communication gaps, how can PV system ensure that culturally adapted messages reach caregivers in a rural area or a low literacy community in an effective way?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Abir. Really interesting and excellent question again. So messages actually must be co-created with caregivers and delivered through, if you want, trusted local channels. So like healthcare workers, of course, or certain other trusted local media channels. Also, like, for example, school nurses can be used in certain countries to deliver this solid message. Also, for these specific communities, we must increase the use of visuals and audio, which is really, really important. It is for me, it is far more effective than a written or text alone. We should depend more of what we call infographic messages, not only text for this specific group of people.
Again, I would like to add many of the requirements that we see in the GVP practices guideline in the Arab countries, talking about risk minimization measures or the safety communications, including the Dear Healthcare Professional letter. Again, these are important. What you have shared in your answer is important to be integrated when we are thinking about risk minimization measures for people with limited literacy. And in the challenge in delivering the Dear Healthcare Professional is delivering it within the needed time. Again, Dr. Omar, thank you so much for your active participation and replies to all these questions. Meanwhile, I would like to go back to you, Dr. Samer. Again, we have two more questions for you, Dr. Samer. Since cumulative exposure across multiple products, I'm not sure, I think I have shared this with you.
Yeah.
I will move on to the
Already
next.
answered this.
Yes. Then we're left with one more question. What strategies are proposed to ensure sustainability of the NSEI database, for example, continuous updating, global contributions, funding, given the rapidly changing pharmaceutical market?
Thank you for the question. Actually, there are many ways to ensure the sustainability of this tool. As I said in my presentation, this tool cannot be successful until the collaboration of all parties like WHO, ISoP, other national formula health authorities, and other parties. This is crucial to maintain this tool and continuously updating the database, which is I proposed a step database, and become available freely to all national authorities.
Thank you so much, Dr. Samer. Thank you both, Dr. Omar and Dr. Samer, for your valuable input, informative sessions, and for making this Middle East session a success. For any other questions that might be shared, as we have said earlier, they will be listed in the Q&A list at the ISoP website. In the meantime, I would like to announce that we have reached the end of our Middle East Patient Safety Day session. I extend our sincere thanks to all of the speakers and to each one of our attendees, and for everyone with their invaluable time and contribution in making the World Patient Safety Day event possible, focusing on the theme, safe care for every newborn and every child. Continuing to share your experiences and comments about ISoP 2025 Patient Safety Day on social media, as we shared with you previously. And I would like to ask all of our audience and participants, if they are interested, to join the upcoming session that is coming from Africa region, and which will start 3 p.m. UK time. Also, I would like to invite everyone to visit our ISoP online Facebook page, YouTube channel, where we can all view this webinar or any other webinars from the Patient Safety Day event again. And those will also be published in the records in the next few days. And finally, if you're not yet a member of the ISoP, we all invite you to join the international network. This network that is highly committed to scientific and educational innovation in pharmacovigilance and global promotion of safe medication use. On behalf of ISoP, I would like to thank you all, speakers, participants, people behind the scene for your participation today, and have a nice evening. Thank you.